Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI InterConnect podcast. I'm your host, Lauren. AI InterConnect is where we bring funders, operators, and investors together to share real execution stories across tech AI driven markets. Today, I'm joined by Anat Nulman, founder of Assistive Consulting. And Assistive Consulting helps assistive technologies company grow by supporting their go-to-market, partnership, and commercial strategy in the disability and blind tech space. Anat, thanks for being here. Very, very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Okay, great. I'm very curious, and I always like to start with your background so listeners understand the path that led you here. What stand out about your path is that you choose a very mission driven niche in tech, which is not the obvious route for many founders. How did your background lead you to build assisting consulting and focus especially on disability tech and blind tech?
For me, it was a happy accident versus the actual background of something that I purposefully planned for. When I was at university many, many years ago, I met the first visually impaired person in my life. And this woman, her name is Liat, she approached me and she says, "Can I copy the notes because I can't see what's happening on the whiteboard?" That happened when we both were 18 years old. Years forward, about 13 years ago, she called me and she said, "Can you help us temporarily? I work for this amazing company that changes people's lives, creates transformational technology. And we just need somebody on a very part-time basis to work with our beta users." And I said, "Of course, I'll help you." And that happy phone call turned into a new career for me. So my background is in marketing and product management. And at the time when she called me, it was a very opportune time because I was in between jobs. I was looking what's next. And I absolutely fell in love with what I was doing. That company where I was supposed to do just a very small temporary project, I ended up working for that company for 7 years. And that company manufactured a reading device for people who are visually impaired. Later, after 7 years, I went to work for another manufacturer. And about 2.5 or so years ago, I started my consulting company where I help companies like similar to the ones I worked before and others to bring their innovative products to market. And most of these products are aimed and geared towards people who are either blind or have low vision to help them with independence, work, education, school, the entire gamut of independent living.
Wow. Okay. Beautiful. I love it. Okay. Then, uh, what what did you underestimate about building in such a specialized market?
Well, I don't know if I underestimated since I have worked for probably about 10 years before I started my consulting company, but working in a niche market is challenging. There are a variety of challenges. Money and funding is the biggest one because it is a niche market. There is not a lot of funding available, and it depends also on the current government policies. Federal and state funds are available for some of these companies, and it's a bit challenging at the moment. However, when there is a will, there is a way. And I really believe that disability tech in general is not something that should be treated as a real niche in our minds. I think it's important. And if we build technology in a way that it is available to everybody. And we build it from scratch using universally designed principles, a lot of disability tech wouldn't exist. There are some things like, for example, white canes or some specialized devices that will always be there. But if we really develop technology in the way that we should be, then there would be very little disability tech per se, and it would be mainstream technology that is helpful to everybody. And there are some examples like Meta Ray-Ban glasses that for example, that are not a disability tech or an iPhone, right, that have been designed in a way that everybody can use it.
That's correct. That's right. What lesson from your early years still shape how you operate today?
The power of community. I think especially when you build technology for people versus for organizations. If you build technology for end users, the community that will be using that technology is incredibly important. It's incredibly important to hire from that community for the companies that build that technology. It is important to test it with the community. It is important that it's driven by the community because we don't operate in a vacuum. We build products for real people. And those real people have to be part of the conversation, have to be part of the development process from day -1 and not as an afterthought.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I appreciate when companies are very clear about who they serve, and you are not trying to serve everyone in tech. Um, when you it's very niche, as you said, and when you explain assistive consulting to someone outside the accessibility space, how do you describe what you actually do and who you help?
I say it very simple. I work with blind people. That's what I do. I work with the blind community and not just the end users, but also service providers, which means nonprofits in the field, government agencies, and private companies that serve our end users. So what I do is very simple. I work with companies that build technology, that purposefully build technology for people who are visually impaired. And a lot of times they have good ideas, but oftentimes they don't understand how to implement this technology in the market and how to do it in a way that it's successful for both the companies that build those technologies and those solutions, but more importantly for the end users, for people who will be using that technology. And in every market, that landscape is very different. In the US, for example, we have 50 states, and every state operates like its own little universe. So there is an immense level of complexity that goes into figuring out how to best promote the products and what are the best business development strategies to employ. So I've been working in this community, in this space for many years. One of the things that I do is I explain to my clients how to do this successfully with integrity so they get the best results for themselves, as well as, more importantly, serving their clients in a meaningful way.
Okay, I love it. Okay, then who gets the most value from working with you, the company or the blind people, if I may say?
It's a win-win situation. I think if only one side benefits, then it is not a good solution. So at the end of the day, all we do is we serve the end users. We serve people who are visually impaired, people with disabilities. If they benefit, everybody else benefits.
Is your leverage more in strategy, partnership, or hand-on business development with the companies?
It's all of the above. Again, we don't operate in a vacuum. There is a vast network of service providers, of programs, of agencies, both for profit and nonprofit and government agencies. And it's important to understand how to sell, but it's important how to sell and how to promote those products. But it's also important to create mutually beneficial relationships, which after so many years in this industry, in this market segment, I open the door to my clients and have those meaningful introductions and facilitate those meaningful conversations between everybody involved. So it is a strategy, it is people, and it is execution.
Beautiful. What truly differentiates your approach from a generalist consulting firm?
Well, I feel like I have a certain advantage because there aren't that many people who do what I do. So there is a level of expertise that can be found elsewhere. Um, it's a plus and it's a minus, like everything else in life. The minus is it's very niche and it's a very small market. The plus side is that there is that level of expertise that if the company wanted to launch its product and do it on their own, it may take them a year to figure out how to do it in a way that makes sense for them. I can save that time and shorten that introduction from a year to just a couple of months, which turns into money, resources, and a lot of other things that a company care about, which makes it a lot faster, more efficient, and less costly for them to do business, which at the end translates for probably better products and lower costs for the end users.
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Running a services company in the niche tech market sounds rewarding, but also very complex. And right now, what feels like the hardest parts of running and scaling assistive consulting?
So it's an interesting question because the first question is, do I really want to scale assistive consulting into something a lot bigger than what it is? And I'm not sure I do. I work with select clients in whose products and whose approaches I believe. And, lucky for me, I'm able to pick and choose which clients I want to work with. And the ones that I do want to work with are the ones that I feel could have potentially the most positive impact on the people that they serve with their products and their solutions. So my biggest challenge is not necessarily scaling, but ensuring that those companies have enough resources to do what they set to do. They have enough money and expertise for product development. They have enough money for market introduction, sales, and business development. Those are the challenges that are in the forefront of what I do. And so it's always looking for resources that are very scarce in this niche industry.
Fair enough. Do assistive tech companies struggle more with product distribution or funding?
It depends. It really depends on the company's circumstances. Many of the companies have started as a graduate school project where they were at fancy university working on solving a particular problem. And as they graduate, there is a solution. And a lot of times those companies are driven by engineers who are genius in terms of being able to create impactful tech, but they may not know about business development and sales and fundraising and all of these other aspects of running a business. Organizations started as spin-offs from somebody who has a long career in mainstream tech, and they see opportunity or they see unmet needs that they want to meet. Some founders have a really personal story where a family member may be affected and they want to create a solution. So I think these companies and their founders come from different walks of lives, and everybody has their own challenges. But the two main ones is funding and making those products available through distribution channel, which is very complex, as you can imagine, and small. And that's where I step in and I help with that.
Yeah, that's great. Where do you feel the most friction today? Is it pipeline positioning? Is it education of the market itself?
I think it's awareness. Most of the people in our daily lives have never met a blind person, or maybe they have met a blind person, maybe a one. So it's not in the front of their mind to necessarily design, develop, and create solutions for an audience that they're not very familiar with. And I think just generally educating the public about the principles of universal design, where you design products, you develop products from the scratch, from the get-go in a way that everybody can use it, that they're ubiquitous. I think that's where the biggest gap is.
Okay. Then let's also zoom in on your client and the enterprises. From what you see, what are the biggest commercial pain points for assistive tech funders today?
Commercial, so there is kind of two sides of the coin. One is to have enough resources, and it's not just the money. Money is being big one, but it's also the technical expertise and the know-how. Because again, it's a very niche, very specific industry that requires very specialized knowledge and understanding. That's on one side. So it's some of those technical abilities. And now in the age of AI, and I remember, maybe 10, 11, 12 years ago, OCR, optical character recognition, was a big deal. OCR really allows for some kind of technology to scan printed text and read it out loud. The first company I worked at, they really capitalized on, back then, the newest and the greatest and the latest OCR advancements and created a device that really disrupted the market. Because up to that point, if a person who was visually impaired and wanted to read, they would have to have what is called a CCTV, which is a big desktop machine with some kind of a camera that would scan the text and read it back to you or magnify it for you. It was not portable. The company I worked for was able to deliver that in something that you just clip on your glasses that was just really tiny. And it really disrupted the market. Now OCR became a mainstream. You take a picture with your iPhone or your Android device, and you literally put your finger on it, and it can read you the text on that picture. So it is available anywhere and everywhere. With the age of AI, we are uncovering a lot of possibilities, such as, assistants, daily life assistants that were not possible before. And understanding how all of these technologies can really help people, I think that's the key. Talking about other challenges, so this is a challenge in understanding technology and how to utilize it in the best way possible for your target audience, right? For the people that you're trying to serve with your products and solutions. The other big challenge is the distribution, because most of assistive technology is sold through very specialized channels. Sure, you can go to Amazon and find some things, but because it's such a high touch industry, there is a lot of training that's involved, a lot of hand holding. A lot of these devices are sold through specialized distributors, and that's a small network, but it's very dispersed. So if you go to another country like France, for example, you work with one distributor that covers the entire country. In the US, you may have multiple ones in each state. So there is that level of complexity, plus all the agencies that you need to work with. The VA healthcare system, the vocational rehabilitation, the network of low vision, optometrists, education system. There's just too many touch points for every single company to be able to know before they enter the market.
Yeah, I know diversity. I mean, of course, the size of the U.S. There's many people to talk to. Then you mentioned during our pre-call, this industry has a real daily impact on people's life. That's powerful. From your vantage point inside disability tech and blind tech, what shifts matters most right now, but it's still underappreciated?
There are several things. I've alluded to some of them. I think the age of AI is really changing and opening opportunities that we couldn't even imagine existed, right? It was not even in the science fiction realm, and now it's reality. That is very exciting. Another thing is going from large to small. Smaller is better. Inconspicuous, tiny devices, or devices that they don't look anything different than what the mainstream public would use. So there is an explosion in a lot of wearable devices, such as glasses, for example. Another exciting development is in the area of tactile information. So anything that's Braille related or tactile graphics. Again, AI enables us now to, obviously there have to be custom applications written, but AI enables us to write those applications that can translate visual information into tactile information. So for our blind, neurodivergent, or have other conditions, that is opening opportunities again that were never even possible even to think about in the past. And another development specifically kind of in the blindness field is the variety of obstacle avoidance navigation solutions that are coming to market that again make everyday living a little bit less challenging for folks with disabilities.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I must change so much things, then yeah, it's becoming exponential what you can do lately. What are people overhyping in accessibility right now?
Everything. Because I think, you have a new technology or a new way of delivering that technology to an end user and it becomes exciting. I don't know if there is a huge overhype necessarily, but I would call it more of a disruption. So Meta Ray-Ban glasses came to market, about 2 years ago or so, and really disrupted how wearable devices are made and what they mean for people who are blind or visually impaired. They've disrupted the price point because up to this point, these devices used to cost, $3, $4, $5,000. And the reason for the such a relatively high price tag was because the limited opportunity, right? A limited number of devices that could be sold versus mainstream. Meta Ray-Ban came in and they just took this advantage of the mainstream device. Now, are Meta Ray-Ban glasses perfect solution, for example, for people who are blind? Depends. They have their huge advantages, but they also have their limitations. But what happens right now is there is an explosion of specialized glasses for the blind that are at a much lower price point. And again, AI has enabled that ability to basically offer something at scale that wasn't available before.
Definitely. Feels like you are at the interesting inflection point, both as a founder and as an ecosystem player. Just because looking ahead 12 to 18 months, what does success realistically look like for assisted consulting?
Success is really translated in the success of my clients and the community in general, right? So if my current clients achieve their goals, I am successful. That's all it is, right? If my clients are set to do something and they want to introduce a new Braille display to the market and that Braille display gets adopted, I'm successful, right?
Yeah.
If people are happy using it and they report that Braille display, whatever that product may be, right? Glasses or computer software, an app, right? If we have many users and there is a high adoption, I'm successful. And I'm successful because my clients are successful and because their clients are successful.
Definitely. Very well said. What are you deliberately not doing to stay focused?
I am deliberately not stretching myself too thin, and I'm deliberately focusing on like a very small niche where I feel I can bring the most value to the entire ecosystem, not just to my clients. So they are companies that provide solutions for people with other disabilities. They're mainstream companies that have products that unproportionately benefit people who are blind. I try to focus on companies that specifically build devices for the blind. That way I can focus and I can provide my expertise to my clients and contribute to the entire ecosystem in a positive way.
Okay, then I shouldn't ask you. You're not gonna expand into a new vertical. You're gonna be doubling down on black tech.
I can't promise what's going to happen, 3, 5 years from now. At the moment, there is no plans to do that because I do want to capitalize on my expertise, which is in the blindness tech. And I love also, doing this for so many years. It becomes a labor of love. It has become one of my social networks. It has become my hobby. became part of my life and not just my job. And I absolutely love what I do. And I'm a big believer of don't fix something that's not broken.
Yeah, definitely. Good say, well said. If you had fewer constraints, what will you accelerate first?
At some point, I have to think about growing my business a little bit. I don't have an intention of becoming, the next McKinsey or a huge consulting business. But at this point, I'm probably at the point where I could grow a little bit. And I have to do it in a conscientious way because, I think anybody hates hiring people and then letting them go because there isn't enough work. So figuring out how I can scale a little bit and get a few additional folks to help me out to really bring that impact and magnify the impact that we're currently doing at Assistive Consulting.
Okay, I love it. One thing, I value on this show is practical insight founders can actually apply. Based on what you have learned building assistive consulting and working with assistive tech companies, what should funders in specialized tech markets start or stop doing?
I think you have to have a level of passion and care for what you do. I think passion takes you to places and opens doors that may have been closed otherwise. Now, passion alone is not enough, right? You have to have expertise, you have to have a lot of discipline, and you have to be able to multitask or find the right team to help you execute on all of these different aspects of a business. Because just having an amazing product is not enough. Just having an amazing distribution strategy is not enough. Having a big investment, sometimes it's the worst thing that happens to companies. And I've seen that where companies have too much money that they know what to do with and they don't use it wisely. So I think it's a combination of all of those things from intangible to tangible that are really key. It's like when you bake a cake, if you have the best flour, but you don't have anything else, the cake's not going to taste good, right? If you don't put enough eggs, it's going to be dry. So it has to have the right amount of ingredients that I mentioned to be successful.
Yeah, beautiful. What habits or mindset shift made the biggest difference for you?
From working in just regular tech and liking what I was doing to really being a mission-driven organization where I serve versus I do. I serve my clients and I serve their clients. And that was an interesting mental shift that took probably a couple of years until I realized it happened. It was happening. I just didn't realize it was happening. And excuse me, with mission-driven organizations, it's that secret sauce, right? You have to care. You have to care and you have to persevere. And even though it could be tough, you wake up in the morning and say, I'm doing it for a reason. And just keep at it.
That's beautiful. If you could go back to day one, what will you do differently?
I would probably not do anything differently. I was lucky enough that I've started my consulting business after I've already been in the industry for over 10 years. So I didn't start from scratch. It was a very natural progression for me. And my consulting business, it's not that significantly different from what I was doing when I worked directly for those companies. It's just I could do it with more companies and bring a lot more impact than just working with one. And for me, that was very exciting. And once I realized that, things kind of fell into place. I was lucky enough that I was in the right place and the right time. So to answer your question, I would probably do exactly the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. Anat, thank you so much for joining. Very strong insight into your journey, your industry, and the work you're doing at Assistive Consulting. Very passionate. I love it. And I thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed talking to you, Laurent.
And if people want to know better about you or your company, and where can they find you?
My website which is assistive.consulting. So no .com, it's just .consulting. Assistive.consulting. There is a contact form. Reach out to me. I love to connect with people. If you have any questions or ideas, or just want to have a virtual cup of coffee, definitely reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was very light, enlightening. I don't know how to say, but it was great. Thank you. Great conversation. Thank you so much, Anat.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
And that's it for today's episode of AI InterConnect. If you enjoy it, share it with someone who's building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Bye bye, Anat.
Bye bye.